So the first thing I want to show you was the PPC Investigator. So this is really to answer the question for you about why an account is doing differently from one period to another period. So as you can see in this example here, we are looking at a particular account and we're asking the question, why have the conversions for the last 30 days changed versus the same period last year? You could also say, why has it changed the last 30 days versus the 30 days before that? Or you can change these date ranges here as well. But what you come up with is an indication here that the conversions for this account are up by 42%. And of course, conversions are driven by two things. They're driven by clicks as well as conversion rate. So here we quickly explain that the main reason the conversions are up is the fact that the clicks have gone up by about 48%, even though the conversion rate is slightly lower. And as you can see, we continue to connect the dots here. So clicks are driven by a few things as well. To get a click, you must get an impression and somebody must decide to click on it. So CTR has to happen. And all of that is, of course, also a little bit driven by how much you're bidding for those clicks. Here we can see the CTR for this account is up dramatically. So that certainly helps, as well as the impressions are up a good bit in this account. And so you can follow this all the way to the bottom and really understand what is shifting the metrics for this particular advertiser. And you can ask that same question for subsegments of the account. So here we're looking at the whole account, but we could have just as easily looked at something like a campaign label. So branded search terms, non-branded search campaigns, shopping campaigns, or you can even go down to the ad group level if you wanted to look at it that way. And then just click the update button right there, and it's going to answer the question for you specifically about what you wanted. Now, I find this particularly useful if I'm managing an account and the customer calls me up a little bit unexpectedly. They want to know how things are going. Well, this quickly helps me tell a story to that client. So rather than looking at a big table of metrics in AdWords and kind of not figuring out how to connect the dots, this does it for you. So it's very easy to tell a story just by looking at this visualization. So that's the first thing that I wanted to show you. And so this lives under Data Insights, PPC Investigator. So if you want to try it yourselves, that's where that feature lives. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to show you is our Keyword Lasso. So the Keyword Lasso is one of our oldest tools, but we recently did a pretty cool update to it, which allows you to make single keyword ad groups, SKAGs for short. So I will take you to the new version. This is the old version of the tool. So we have a new and improved version. This is the one that has the single keyword ad group. So you can load that up from that link right there. And so you see most of the functionality is the same, but just the UI has changed a little bit at the top here. So you have these keyword suggestions. And remember, these keyword suggestions come based from your query data. So we try to figure out which queries your account has gotten impressions and clicks and conversions for, and then we boil it down to what we think are the best ones. In many accounts, if you look at the query data, you could get tens of thousands of suggestions. So in this case, we've boiled it down to about 863 of the best ones. So of course, you can change any of these pieces of text. You can quickly make things negatives at the campaign or ad group level. You can change your match types, or you can even do a bulk change on match types. So literally with 2 clicks, I can put the plus in front of every word. So that's quite nice because a lot of people like to do broad match modified these days. Now, if you wanted to create all of these in single keyword ad groups, let me show you how that would work. So what I do is I go to target ad group. I say we're going to keep these keywords in the originating campaign, but we're going to make a new ad group. And then when I hit next, it's asking me to put in a naming convention. Okay, so I can do insertion of either the keyword and or the match type. So I'm just going to do keyword in this case. And then you notice here that we're going to put everything into an ad group where we name it after whatever the keyword is. So in this case here, buy party gray bags, we would go and look, does that ad group already exist in this particular campaign? If so, we will just add the keyword to it. If the ad group does not yet exist, we create the ad group and we fill it with ad text from the originating ad group. So wherever the keyword was that triggered this query, that ad group is going to serve as the foundation for us to make the new ad group. That's going to be where the ad text comes from. And then we put in this new keyword. So now you have a single keyword ad group automatically created. And of course, the beauty of this now is we have 863 suggestions. So literally, in less than 2 minutes, I could make 863 new ad groups in this account from this data. So something that would have taken several steps to do manually, we can do very quickly now through the keyword Lasso. So that's new, so definitely give that a try, or let me know if anyone has questions about it. So with that, I'm going to jump into Geo Bid Modification. So many of you probably already use the dimensions report inside of AdWords. And so this is in our AdWords account. The dimensions are right here. And then you can go into the geographic view. This will tell you for all of the different places where your ad has been showing what the results are, what the stats are. And this is cool because you don't have to be targeting specifically, in this case, Buenos Aires to get the results for it. Okay, so if I was targeting the whole country of Argentina, by default, Buenos Aires is part of that. Hence, we get that data. We don't have to specifically call it out as a target. Now, the downside here in AdWords is if we look at something like Australia, okay, so in New South Wales, the North Shore, we have a really good click-through rate, so maybe we actually want to bid a little bit more for that location. While from this page, we can't set a geographic bid modifier. To do that, we would have to go back to our campaign settings right there. We'd have to remember what the location was, and then we'd have to manually add it, and then we could manually go and set the bid. So that's quite a few steps to do this, and then of course, if you look through this whole list, I mean, it goes on and on and on, and so that would be a lot of work to do. So we thought at Optmyzr, we can probably do things a little bit more easily. This is what it looks like from us. So this is a one-click optimization. It's for bids, and you go to your geo bid adjustments. This is where you find it. So I've loaded this up, and by default, the country level, but I've already gone and changed it to the regional level data. I could go all the way down to postal code. And of course, postal code and zip code, that's only available in a select number of countries, but where it is available, we have that data and we will allow you to make bid adjustments at that level. Okay, so this first page that you see is actually not very different from the dimension report that I just showed you on Google. So it shows you, in this case, state level data and the metrics for each of these. Okay, but where it gets different is for the state of California, we tell you that 24 campaigns have accrued data that totals up to these numbers. In the state of Alaska, on the other hand, there's only been 10 campaigns getting data. And this could be because we're specifically targeting 10 campaigns to Alaska, or maybe because there's just fewer people living in Alaska, so fewer of our campaigns have had impressions from that region. Now, of course, it becomes more interesting if I open up each of these locations. So now I can look at each of these individual 24 campaigns and what the numbers behind these are. It even tells me what is my current geographic bid adjustment at these different levels. Okay, so by default, the new bid adjustment is going to be your old bid adjustment. So you might look at this and you might see, okay, well, this particular campaign has 100 conversions. It's converting at $26.62 per acquisition. Yet we're bidding down 45%. So is that the right thing? Well, it depends, right? So it depends on how you want to set bids. Go here to calculate bid adjustments, and you tell us what your goal is. The goal could be return on ad spend, so the conversion value divided by cost. Could be cost per acquisition, that's cost per conversion. Cost per converted click, of course, this is going to go away pretty soon as Google removes converted clicks from the interface. Or you could have an average CPC goal. So depending on whatever the goal is, I'm going to click CPA in this case, and I'm going to say that our CPA goal is $20. So I put that in. By the way, if you want to go higher than 20, you can just type it into this field, and that slider will become bigger. You can also limit the bid changes you make. So for making this example easy to understand, I'm going to remove the upper and lower boundaries, and I'm going to leave the aggressiveness at 100%. Aggressiveness, this would be a way to scale up and down bid adjustments. So you could be really conservative in the initial bid adjustments so that you're not making big jumps in the account. But let me close this out. And now you can see we've done some color coding and actually changed the numbers of bid adjustments. So looking again at that campaign here that had 100 conversions, we think the bid adjustment should be negative 25% as opposed to a negative 45%. And that, of course, is based on the fact that our cost per acquisition goal is 20, but in the past we've been achieving 26 here. So we're about a quarter too high. That's why we recommend bidding it down by 25%. Notice also this is a green highlighted field. Green just means we're increasing the bid modifier from the level it was before. It could still be negative, but it's higher than what it was before. That's green. If it is lower than what it was before, it becomes red. Okay, so we have this data now, but you might look at this and let's see this one. Okay, so this campaign dresses has one conversion out of 85 clicks, and we're recommending going from -80% to -33%. Now, is that a smart decision? Not necessarily, because one conversion is probably not enough data points to make that big of a jump in changing your bid modifier. So what we can do next is we can open up our custom filters. Using the custom filters, I can tell the system my minimum level of comfort before I want to change something. So say that I want to have at least 10 conversions. I'm going to apply that filter, and I'm going to close this box, and I'll go back to just the state of California. By the way, notice California had 24 campaigns in the past, but now that I've filtered it to those with at least 10 conversions, it's down to just 10 campaigns that meet those criteria. If I look at them here, and I look at the conversion column, notice that the minimum one has 10 conversions, which was the amount that I put into my custom filters. Okay, so this helps you really hone in on when the data is statistically relevant. But what about those 14 other campaigns where you didn't have enough data? Maybe you feel that your business is normalized enough where whatever happens in California for one campaign may actually also apply to different campaigns. So for that, we have one final setting. If you go back to calculating your bid adjustments, there's a checkbox here that says we can inherit data from the location level if the individual campaign doesn't have enough data. So I go ahead, I click this box. Let me go back to just the state of California. Notice we're back to 24 campaigns now. At the state level for California, we have a recommendation to increase the bid by 20%. That's because in California, the CPA is $16.71, so it's below the $20 target. For this campaign, which only has one conversion or no conversions, we now have the 20% bid increment, which comes from the state level. For the campaigns that do have enough individual data, like this first one, we've used that individual campaign's data to calculate our new bid suggestion. So it's a really great way to use specific data when you can, and to use aggregated data when the data is a little bit too sparse in your account. And it's a very quick way to set these bid modifiers. Now, notice in this particular account, we already had bid modifiers for all of the regions, but I could just as easily go and do this at the city level. And we're going to highlight in yellow, the yellow background, any locations that were not specifically targeted yet. So we'll see if this optimization loads relatively quickly here, pulling a lot of data, of course, to get the city level data. But so the point that I'm trying to make is you don't have to be targeting these locations for you to be able to use this tool. So literally, if I was just targeting the United States as a country, I would still be able to get the zip code level, the city level, and the state level data and act on it, and only act on it, of course, if it is meaningful. So here, these are all highlighted in yellow, so that indicates that I currently don't have a bid adjustment set for that city. Now, of course, in some of those cases, the bid adjustment is coming from the parent level, which would be the state. So that's how all of that works. So if anyone has any follow-up questions on that, go ahead and type them into the chat box or the Q&A box. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next area here. All right, so the next area that I wanted to show people is workouts. Okay, so workouts is not a new optimization, but it is a different workflow. So we've realized that agencies and account managers tend to have a certain workflow they tend to go through for the accounts that they manage. And what we've done here is we've put those optimizations together, and we're kind of stringing them together. So we have some instant workouts that we've pre-built, so everybody will have access to these 4 standard workouts. And by the way, you can find them as a new menu item up here, account workouts. And you could, for example, go into an optimization which we've defined as increasing conversions. Okay, so if you want to increase conversions, it tells you these are the 3 steps that we're going to go through. Each of these corresponds to a specific optimization. And now, rather than having to hunt and peck through the interface, we're going to show you exactly which optimization to do in what order. So once we jump into it, and by the way, the message it was giving me said I'd already started this optimization earlier today. So I could have continued it. This is great for when you want to go to lunch in the middle of doing a big optimization. You can pick up where you left off. But in this case, I'm just going to start it fresh. So what it does here is, again, it shows the keyword lasso. So this is the same tool that we had just looked at before. Now from here, we can then quickly jump on to the next task where we could have approved these changes and it would have automatically taken me into the next section. Okay, so with this next section, now we're looking at the conversion grabber. With the conversion grabber, it's telling me a couple of interesting keywords that have some potential to convert more if we had less impression share lost. And then finally, we have the first page bridger, where we help you find out if some keywords could get more impressions by bidding up at that first page bid level. And then once you're finished with all of these steps, you get a little bit of a report card that says what you've just done. In this case, I haven't made any changes, but if I had made changes, those would show up in here, and then I would get a CSV download file to be able to refer to all of those, see exactly what was done, and maybe revert those if at some point I wanted to revert it. Okay, now the other thing you get here is a workout history, so you can see for each account who made changes, how many changes, how long ago. And then the nicest thing, I think, is that you can create your own custom workout. So once you've played with the 4 that we have, you may figure out, oh, well, I kind of want to do my own workout, and it's a different order of doing things. Maybe I want to use different settings. So for example, we could add the keyword lasso as an optimization. We could choose which columns we show by default. So, you know, if we don't really work much with e-commerce clients, we could disable conversion value as a field. If we tend to work with a lot of smaller clients where maybe the data is a little bit more sparse, we could turn on the turbo mode. And we could even choose the way that we set for original filters and what date ranges we have. Then I can add a second optimization. And if I wanted to change the order, all I have to do is drag them around to change the order that way. Okay. So and then at the end of this, I can save this, and now it's going to become available as a custom workout that you can do in your accounts. So it's a great way for managers, for example, to define what the account executives would be doing in the account. So one person can define the workflow, other people can then go and implement whatever it is that needs to be changed. So that's a quick view at account workouts. We've just added those to the interface a few days ago, so definitely go and check that out and send us any feedback you have. It's a brand new feature, so this is the time when we're still really evaluating what works well, what could be improved. So this is the best time to get your feedback to make it work exactly the way you want. So that's workouts. Let me jump on to the next optimization here. And this is actually not an optimization. This is one of our data insight tools. So I wanted to talk a bit about how you can improve your budgets. What I'm looking at here is the spend projection tool. So the spend projection tool, by default, will just show you how much we think this particular account is going to spend by the end of the month. So by September 30th, we think this account will be about $1,500. And there's a bit of a range, of course, and that range is usually determined by fluctuations in recent days. So here you can see a day-by-day chart of the amount of spend. Now, if we said this account is looking like it's going to spend about $1,500, but really we intend to spend $2,000, we can put in the target budget number. We can refresh this. It becomes interesting because it shows you the pace. I really like this field here, pace towards towards the budget. So this is telling me even though we've already spent 52% of the budget, because we only have 9 days left in the month, it looks like we're going to end the month at about 77% of what our intended budget was. So we're too far away, okay? So we need to go and change our budgets. So let's take a look at some budget suggestions. The tool says we really should be spending about $105.90 per day to hit that budget. So let's go and set these budgets. You can click on that button right there, or you can also go to the one-click optimization for budgets right here. Now, it's still remembered. I'm trying to spend $2,000 in this specific case. So based on that $2,000, it tells me a few things. So it highlights in yellow any of the rows where there's opportunity for me to spend more money. And that's because there's some impression share lost due to budget. Okay, so here I have a daily budget of $17, but it thinks I could spend almost $25 a day. So I could go and increase this budget. And then as I put in that increase, it tells me what the estimated spend would be. Okay, so my new daily budget has gone up by some amount. By actual daily spend is probably going to go up by about $6.59 based on that. And so then up here, I can see how much more money I still need to spend to achieve that goal. Now, of course, in many cases, accounts will be maxed out on budget, and the only solution in that case is to add more keywords or to increase the bids for keywords. But in the case where you do have impression share lost due to budget, this is a great tool to help you allocate. The other way you can use this is you can look at columns like cost per conversion. Okay, so if you want to reallocate your budgets, maybe you want to look at your most expensive campaign. So if you see that this one is converting at $68 per acquisition, whereas this one is doing it at $12 per acquisition, it'd be kind of nice for me to reduce budget on this one and spend more money on that one. And this tool will tell you, okay, well, this one you're actually losing a little bit of impression share. This one you seem to be fully capturing it. So actually assigning more budget here is not going to help you, but reducing this budget would help my accounts have a better cost per acquisition overall, because these conversions are really expensive, so maybe I want to spend a little bit less money towards those. So this is a great one-click optimization. And then, of course, remember, this is a one-click optimization, so you do have to come to this manually to review what we recommend, and then you can click that blue button right there to apply those changes in real time to your account. Now, if you wanted something a little bit more automated, we can help with that as well. That's where enhanced scripts come in. Enhanced scripts, these are automations that can run as often as once per hour, fully automatically through the AdWords scripting system. The two new tools that we have specifically to budgets is this first one, advanced budgets, pause when things spend too much. So this is a methodology that allows you to set something like an account level monthly budget. That's kind of a typical way that a client would think about budgets. AdWords, of course, is really focused on campaign level daily budgets. Clients like to translate that to account level monthly budgets. So say that this had an account budget of $2,000 for the month. I could put in whatever that value was, so $2,000 for the month. I can specify this as an account level budget, but I could even do something pretty funky, which is a keyword level budget. You know, have you ever heard of a keyword level budget? No, because AdWords doesn't support it, but this script will actually help you enforce budgets on individual keywords or even individual ad types. So it has quite a range of capabilities. But the example I was giving was, let's do an account level monthly budget of $2,000. And then we can say you should automatically go and pause whatever's active in the account if we exceed that budget. Okay, so what this now is going to do is if the account spends more than $2,000 in the current month, it is going to pause all active campaigns. It can also shoot me an email notification if I put an email in there. And I can also tell it to automatically re-enable everything. This is also nice because if the first day of the next month when I want to re-enable these campaigns happens to be on a Sunday, well, now that means I have to come into the office to actually go and re-enable these campaigns. If you turn on the script to automatically re-enable, it's going to handle it for you. It's going to know the first hour of the first day of the next budget period. It knows based on the label what it had paused in the past, and it can automatically re-enable those things. So a very convenient script to help you make sure you don't exceed any spend targets that your client had. For those of you who haven't used scripts, they're very easy to install once you've put in the settings. Either take the MCC level or the single account level code that we give you. You copy and paste that into AdWords. We have a very easy to follow tutorial here. Right, so you could look at the scripts right here. Actually, you'd have to search here for scripts. Okay, so how to install scripts in AdWords, that's the answer right there. So that explains exactly how to do it. But then you set that up, and then you maintain everything from here, and then you get emails and notifications whenever something gets paused. Now we have another script which does kind of the opposite of what I just showed you. So this script will stop you from spending money after you've spent too much. We also have a script that sets your daily budgets based on some goal that you have. So this particular one, let me close my help window. Right there. Okay, so so this one will set your daily budget. So let me start a new example here. So budgets live at a shared budget level, so multiple campaigns, or they are campaign level. So that is how this script will work. So you can tell us, for example, I have an account shared budget, and this happens to be the name of that budget. We have to tell the script that this is a shared budget, or else it's a campaign level budget. And then once again, we can say what the target spend is, so $2,000. Now, the fun stuff here is how do we allocate that budget? So we have roughly 10 days left in this month. And for the sake of example, to keep it simple, let's say there were exactly 10 days left in this month. Say that we had $1,000 left to spend. So the easiest way to allocate that is evenly. So that means $1,000 divided by 10 days is $100 per day. This would go and set my daily budget today to $100. We have a more sophisticated methodology called evenly with increases for high potential days of the week. This one is aware that, for example, Mondays tend to spend more than Sundays in your specific account. And so it will allocate a higher budget on a Monday because it thinks you can spend more. On a Sunday, it'll still put in the minimum amount of $100, so 1,000 divided by 10, $100. But on a Monday, when it thinks it could spend significantly more money, it might actually put in a $150 budget to make sure that you really do spend that full potential. And once again, of course, there's a way to get notifications via email, and then a couple of advanced settings that you don't have to worry about too much if you don't want to, but if you do, this tells us how to calculate the average by day of week potential, so how many weeks of history to look at. And we can even do stuff like roll over any unused budget from the last period. So these are two new budget scripts. These have been really popular with our users. So if you haven't played with these, they're definitely big time savers, and I encourage you to give them a try. So that's what I wanted to show mostly. I do have one little bonus that I didn't present on last week, but I thought it was relevant. So I'll wrap up with this one, and then I'll take any questions. So Erica has a few questions, so I'll get to those in just a moment. Anyone else, definitely type in the Q&A box as well. But the final thing here is A/B testing for ads. So AdWords has introduced ETAs, expanded text ads, and until October 26th, you can still make legacy ads as well as expanded text ads. What we wanted to show you is which of these ads are performing better. So we have a methodology in our A/B testing tool where you can compare a legacy and expanded ads. So this can inform your decision of whether you should move full force to expanded ads or whether you might still want to keep some of these legacy ads around. Of course, you can also just compare expanded text ads against each other. And then a lot of people don't realize, but we can do analyses on dynamic search ads as well as call-only ads. So pretty powerful tool here. But what you can see here, for example, is we have this one is an expanded text ad, and it seems to be performing significantly better than the legacy ad. In this case, it's the opposite example. The legacy ad is doing better than the expanded text ad. So this helps me understand what's working well, what's not working well. And then if I wanted to do a variation of this expanded text ad to make sure that I keep experimenting, all I do is I click on the duplicate button, and then it shows me the new ad formats with the 2 headlines and the 1 description line. And then as I toggle between the different fields, it tells me what is the best performing element for that component of the ad text from across this whole campaign. Okay, so you can see we've run 3 different variations here, and this is the best performing one. So if that was different from what we had in here, all I would have to do is click on that, boom, I'm making a new ad text automatically. So a very quick way to do A/B testing for ads. So that's by and large what's new in Optmyzr. We've done a lot of other small tweaks, but these are the biggest and most important ones. So let me take a look at questions now. But for any of those who don't have questions, thank you very much for joining. There will be a survey at the end of this. So if you do want to have someone get in touch with you, the easiest way is to just indicate that in the post-webinar survey, and I will follow up with an email.